London Uncovered, as we are moving on to a new episode, and today we are talking about tackling toxic relationship. Yes, relationships can be hard because of the emotional, physical, spiritual and mental closeness it demands. It can also become overwhelming and more difficult to handle than others. So what is a toxic relationship? A toxic relationship is one that makes you feel unsupported, misunderstood, demeaned or attacked. It is toxic when your well-being is threatened emotionally, psychologically or physically. They exist in just about any context, from friends, co-workers, romantic partners to family friends. Here are some signs of toxic behaviors, and they are insecurity, jealousy, negativity, self-centeredness, selfishness, critical, demeaning, distrusting, abusive and disrespectful. And some signs of healthy behaviors are secure, loving, positive, giving, selfless, encouraging, uplifting, trustworthy, compassionate, and respectful. So let's look at some of the toxic relationships. 1. Toxic friends. They cross your boundaries. They never listen to your problems. They can't be happy for you. They are judgmental and will make you feel drained. 2. Toxic family. They compare you to other people. They are always right. They dismiss your feelings and they pick on you. 3. Toxic co-worker. They gossip. They can't work as a part of a team. They complain a lot and are never satisfied. Toxic partner. They have issues they aren't willing to work on. They can't or won't communicate. They like to control through humiliation, intimidation, threats and violence. And they stay emotionally detached and disinterested. So what can we do about it? In order to move forward, experts suggest these steps. Don't dwell on the past. View your partner with compassion. Start therapy. Find support. Practice healthy communication. Be accountable. Heal individually. And hold space for the others to change. And the most important thing is to just cut yourself off from the people who don't allow you to express your true feelings. And always remember, you are in control of your life. Set new boundaries by removing all of the toxic people from your inner circle. So let's go and see what people have to say about it. Tell us, what does toxic relationship mean to you?
Relationships that poison you. I mean, the metaphor is right. Relationships that are basically making you sicker and iller and driving you to distraction and generally overwhelming your immune system and your emotional immune system as well, so that you're tearing your hair out, your hair is falling out, you're worried to death, you're just not able really to function properly.
So what can one do about it?
Well, I think a lot of people are embroiled in toxic relationships, and it depends who the relationship is with. If it's with a partner, then you have to ask the really difficult question, why is this person destroying me? Is it me? Have I got any role in this? Or are they doing it to me? And you may have to break with them. If it's with a family, it's really much trickier because it's much harder to break with them. I do know people who have had to kind of take a sort of leave of absence from their families. But the most important thing, I think, is to work out, where is this coming from? You can't control your parents, you can't control your aunt or your uncle, but you can control how you react to them. You can control what change you want to make in response to them. Where I'm worried about the phrase toxic relationships, though, is that sometimes it means you've done a bad thing to me and therefore I'm never going to have anything to do with you again. And that means that when you declare a relationship toxic, it means you completely cut it off. I think sometimes that's a shortcut. I think sometimes that relationships need to be worked on, but they can only be worked on when you feel yourself safe inside, when you feel yourself in some kind of place of refuge, when you feel yourself known and loved. And that's actually, I'm standing with my collar on here, I think that's very a very important part of why we pray, and of who Jesus is and what we do with Jesus. My experience in prayer is you experience that refuge and the sense of yourself as you are with Jesus, and that means feeling secure, and it's from that point of security that you can then start to be real about the toxic relationships, rather than just either snapping out of them and running away, fight or flight mode, or pretending that it's not real. So you need a point of security to work from.
So what message would you give to the world, Peter?
I would say please go to amazon.co.uk and buy a book called How to Be an Adult by David Richo. It's an old book now, and he's written many others, but this is the best, How to Be an Adult by David Richo. And it's all about how you make sure that you control what you can control about yourself, and that you remain a loving person, but you don't allow yourself to be poisoned subtly by other people or by your own guilts and fears.
Peter, once again, that was touching. Thank you very much.
God bless.
Tell us, what does toxic relationships mean to you?
Toxic relationship is where you're misunderstood, there's no support, and you always feel dinged for an attack in a relationship.
So how does one deal with it?
One should speak up about it, get some advice from, there's organisations like domestic violence, and even a therapist. You could either talk to a friend or just find love in yourself.
What message would you give to the world, James?
To not take any abuse off of anyone, and just always know that you're always loved, and just look after yourself.
James, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tell us, what does toxic relationship mean to you?
Yeah, toxic relationships, anything that's like really bad for you. If you're like in a relationship with someone and they affect you badly, then it's a good idea to get out of it.
So how can one deal with it?
Some people would say, like stick it out or stay with them, but I would say if you're in a toxic relationship, then the best thing to do is to escape from it.
What message would you give to the world?
I'd say, if you are stuck in a relationship that is toxic and is like really affecting you, then the best thing to do is to try and get out of that relationship.
Nigel, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tell us, what does toxic relationships mean to you?
Yes, I always associate toxic relationships with one person or sometimes two people in a relationship who maybe their characteristics, their personal traits are quite antagonistic. So, for example, if you're a very selfish person and you're in a relationship, everything would be about you, and the other person would suffer as a result because they might feel neglected, or you might have tendency to get angry and violent. That's never going to work in a relationship because the other person will suffer the wrath of your anger. So a toxic relationship to me is any relationship that has an imbalance with normally one person, but I mean it's even worse if there's two toxic people in the relationship. That's just a recipe for disaster. But normally it's one person who's affecting the other person in a negative way. That's toxic to me.
So how does one deal with it?
To me, the only way you can deal with a toxic relationship is to get out of the relationship, because if that person has that particular personal trait and they're not going to change that personal trait, whether it be something negative, then it's always going to affect you in one way or another. And they may They may, say, "Oh, I'm going to change. Things will be different," but the mask always slips. So there's only really two ways: either you leave that relationship, or you get that person to change through one way or another, counselling or something like that. Because, like I say, if you're feeling the brunt of all of that negativity, all that toxicity in the relationship, it's going to affect you. And the way I look at it is, the only person important in your life is yourself. So you only have to look after yourself. You don't need to look after somebody who's been negative and toxic towards you.
What message would you give to the world?
When it comes to toxic relationships, like I say, there's only one way to get out of that relationship, and that is to kick that person to the curb, because it just won't work. You have to think about yourself. If there's kids involved especially, they'll be feeling the brunt of that relationship. So you just have to end it, find some way of ending it, and good luck to you, I guess.
Tom, once again a pleasure. Thank you.
No way. You're welcome, Sanjay.
As we come to the end of this episode, and we've been talking about tackling toxic relationships. And yes, we have seen that toxicity in a relationship can take many forms, including emotional or verbal abuse. And if you have decided it's time to move on from the relationship, these strategies can help you to do so safely. Get support from a therapist or domestic violence advocate. Open up to a loved one. Bring a trusted friend along for support. Change your phone number, and if this isn't possible, block your partner's number and social media accounts so you don't feel tempted to respond if they reach out. Take care of yourself. Leaving any relationship can feel painful and distressing. Honor your needs by taking time for relaxation, sleep, and self-care, along with time to heal before starting a new relationship. And one author puts it beautifully. He says, "Something about you helped me see that without love, I'm finally free. Free from the pain, free from lies, free from having tearful eyes. Without your love, I finally see all the horrid things you have come to be."